Okay, today we are going to read another story about not about but with an unreliable narrator. So a narrator that can't be trusted. And so we've looked at a lot of different types of unreliable narrators, ones who are lying, ones that are on purpose, unreliable, but this one's a little bit different. The story we're going to read today is called The Telltale Heart, and it is by Edgar Allan Poe, who is like a famous horror writer from a long time ago. And it's just a really great story. So what I want you to do is, if you are doing this on Nearpod, I want you to, you don't have to pause it because it'll stop to ask you questions. If you are just listening to the video, you will pause when I ask my questions to answer them and then press play. Okay, so I'm going to read the story out loud to you. It is called The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. Okay, so my first question after this paragraph is, who is the narrator speaking to? So if you're on Nearpod, just wait until the question pops up. If you are just listening to this video or watching this video, pause me and answer this question and then press play. All right. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded with that caution, with that foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? All right, so again, if you're on Nearpod, just wait for the question to pop up. Otherwise, I'm going to have you pause me so you can answer this question. So the narrator uses a lot of forethought or pre-planning here. And he says, would a madman have been so wise as this? So I want to know, do you think that this forethought or pre-planning is a sign that he is crazy or a sign that he is not crazy? Pause me and go ahead and answer. And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. All right, what is the work? It was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Why is the narrator being so nice to the old man? Pause me and answer, and then press play. All right, I want you guys to read silently from upon the 8th night all the way to feel the presence of my head within the room. Pause me until you've read that and then press play. All right, I want you to look at just that last paragraph that starts with the word presently and goes to feel the presence of my head within the room. I want you to look closely at that paragraph, and I want you to think about, what does this paragraph tell you about the old man? And what does the paragraph tell you about the narrator? Pause me and answer it, and then press play. All right, I want you to read silently from when I had waited a long time to his eye would trouble me no more. Pause me and then press play once you've read that. All right, so that paragraph ended with the line, his eye would trouble me no more. How might that line be foreshadowing, which we learned about last week? How might that line be an example of like clues about the end of the story? All right, I want you to read from if you still think me mad to I found that the noise was not within my ears. Pause me until you have finished that and then press play. All right, so the narrator has been describing this noise that he's hearing. What do you think the noise is? What is happening? Okay. No doubt, I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased. And what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard it not? Almighty God, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now again, hark, louder, 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 louder. All right, what's happening in this paragraph? Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. All right, now that we've finished that story, the question that I want you guys to think about and take some time to answer using evidence from the text is, what makes the narrator of this story an unreliable narrator? Take some time to answer that question. Make sure you give your best answer for this question, and have a wonderful rest of your day.